Hi, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. Today we are on Psalm 114, and I look at this psalm as like Testimony Sunday. If you have ever been to a baptism service, a celebration Sunday at Shrewsbury Assembly, you know what I'm talking about. It has been the last year, I would say, we've had such beautiful, powerful moments of people sharing their stories, sharing what God has done, celebrating his good deeds in their life. And there is just something about hearing a testimony. I'll do a little plug for something coming up at the end of this, but let's get into the word because this chapter in Psalm 114, I look at it as they're sharing stories of what God has done in their context. And I want us to think then about our context today. So let's go ahead and read it. Starting in verse 1, it says, When the Israelites escaped from Egypt, when the family of Jacob left that foreign land, the land of Judah became God's sanctuary, and Israel became his kingdom. The Red Sea saw them coming and hurried out of the way. The water of the Jordan River turned away. The mountains skipped like rams, and hills like lambs. What's wrong, Red Sea, that made you hurry out of their way? What happened, Jordan River, that you turned away? Why mountains did you skip like rams? Why hills like lambs? Tremble, O earth, at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the God of Jacob. He turned the rock into a pool of water. Yes, a spring of water flowed from solid rock. Now, at first glance, if you're a little bit less familiar with the Bible, maybe you haven't read through some of the Old Testament stories and followed the journey of the Israelites, God's chosen people, this might have just sound like a beautiful poem. That's almost what Feel It gave off to me. But really, if you are familiar with some of those stories, this is a beautiful depiction of things that God has done. It references within here the covenant that God has with Jacob, with the chosen people. It references the parting of the Red Sea. It references the when Moses struck the rock and provided water for the people. It's a retelling of those stories. It's a remembrance, a testimony of God's goodness and faithfulness to the people to spur them on in continued faith and trust in God. And that really is the power of our testimony. It not only solidifies in our own minds and hearts what God has done in us, but there's a beautiful ripple effect that when you share your testimony, it encourages others about the power of God. It shows them what God can do in someone's life. It reminds them of his good deeds and his wondrous works. And like I said earlier, that's what I love about hearing people's testimonies. Now, at our church, we've had some services where we really center and surround ourselves with focused time to hear those things. But really, we can do this anytime. You can share your testimony over a cup of coffee. You can share it in your small group. You can share it at dinner when you have friends over. You can share it with anyone and everywhere. You can throw it on Facebook. It'd be great to hear some awesome things about God on there. I encourage you to remember the power of your story. And maybe it would be, maybe you could be intentional today, if you never have before, to even write down what your story is. What has God done in your life? What things are worth mentioning in your family and the history of how you have come to faith? That would be a beautiful thing to do so that you already have it ready in your mind so you could be prepared to share it with others. Now, I said at the beginning of this that I was going to plug something, and I'm shamelessly going to plug it because I'm super excited about it. But at Shrewsbury Assembly, we are going to be starting an Easter series in March because that's how we roll. I know Easter's like the end of April, but we're so excited about this that on March 23rd, it's coming up very quickly, we're going to start a brand new series called, okay, it's just me alone in this room, but you can drum roll with me. The series is called This Is My Testimony. And the beautiful thing that we're going to do is we're going to be pairing testimonies from the Bible with current testimonies of believers today. And then we're going to be talking about how God is writing a testimony in your life. We're going to be hearing stories left and right of what God has done and what he is doing. And I know you're going to be encouraged and I know you're going to be inspired to continue to trust the Lord no matter what circumstances you're facing, because there's power in our testimonies. So take some time today and at least think about it. Pray about it, that even if you could, write it down. What is your testimony? What is the story that God is writing in your life? And then pray and ask God, is there someone you want me to share this with? Is there a family member, a coworker, someone in my small group, someone in my neighborhood that I could share my story with so that God could speak into their life through it. Pray about that today. Hey, I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for another daily dose for spiritual growth.